Dr. Elena Vasquez adjusted her translator earpiece as the crystalline doors of the Zephyrian Council chamber hissed open. The invitation had been clear. The Galactic Academic Consortium sought Earth's finest scholarly mind to participate in their Millennium Research Project. What they hadn't expected was that Earth's finest scholarly mind belonged to a military historian who had spent 15 years analyzing the rise and fall of civilizations. The chamber stretched before her like a cathedral of light, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that she recognized as the Zephyrian equivalent of written text. Around a circular table sat representatives from 12 species, each more alien than the last. The Zephyrians themselves resembled living glass sculptures, their transparent bodies refracting the chamber's light into rainbow cascades. Beside them sat the insectoid Thakari, their compound eyes glittering like black diamonds, and the plant-like Verdani, whose bark skin rustled with each breath. "Welcome, human scholar," spoke Kilnara, the lead Zephyrian, her voice like wind chimes, in a gentle breeze. "We have gathered the galaxy's greatest minds to solve our most pressing crisis." Elena took her seat, noting how the other beings watched her with a mixture of curiosity and dismissal. Humans were new to the galactic stage, barely 3 centuries since first contact. What could they possibly contribute to a consortium that had existed for millennia? "The crisis," continued Kilnara, "is the Devourers." A holographic display materialized above the table, showing a sector of space that looked like it had been carved out with a cosmic knife. Where stars should have twinkled, only darkness remained. "They consume everything," explained Dr. Zektor, the Thakari representative, his mandibles clicking with agitation. "Planets, ships, entire star systems. Nothing stops them. They've already claimed 7 sectors in the Outer Rim." "Our combined fleets," added Thornwick, the Verdani delegate, his leaves rustling mournfully, "have failed repeatedly. Superior. Technology means nothing when they adapt to every weapon we deploy." Elena studied the hologram, her historian's mind automatically cataloging patterns. "How long have they been advancing?" "Approximately 200 standard years," replied Kilnara. "Their progress has been methodical." "Show me their expansion pattern," Elena requested. The hologram shifted, displaying the Devourer's advance over time. Elena watched, her eyes narrowing as she traced the seemingly random path of destruction. To the others it looked chaotic, unpredictable. But Elena saw something else entirely. "You've been fighting them like they're a natural disaster," she said finally. "But they're not. They're an army." The chamber fell silent. Dr. Zektor's compound eyes focused on her with new intensity. "Explain." Elena stood, gesturing to the hologram. "Look at the pattern. They don't just consume. They strategically target resource-rich systems while leaving defensive choke points intact. They're not mindless devourers. They're tacticians." She manipulated the display, highlighting specific systems. "Here, they bypassed 3 heavily fortified worlds to strike at this mining colony. Why? Because those fortified worlds were dependent on the colony's resources. Without supplies, the defenders had to abandon their positions or starve." "Impossible," breathed Thornwick. "The Devourers don't communicate. They show no signs of intelligence." "Neither did the Mongols to the settled civilizations they conquered," Elena replied. "Different doesn't mean stupid. You've been trying to outgun them when you should have been outthinking them." Over the next 3 hours, Elena dissected 2 centuries of military failures with the precision of a surgeon. She showed them how the Devourers used the galaxy's own infrastructure against it, how they turned the consortium's greatest strength, their interconnected civilization, into their greatest weakness. "The solution isn't better weapons," she concluded. "It's better strategy. You need to stop reacting and start predicting." Kilnara's crystalline form flickered with what Elena had learned was excitement. "You have a plan?" "I have several," Elena said, bringing up a new display. "First, we fragment their supply lines. The Devourers may adapt to weapons, but they still need resources. We create a series of false targets, systems that appear resource-rich but are actually traps. She highlighted specific locations on the galactic map. Second, we use their predictability against them. They've been following the same strategic doctrine for 2 centuries. That makes them vulnerable to misdirection. Dr. Zektor leaned forward. And the third part? Elena smiled, and several of the aliens instinctively recoiled. Humans, they were learning, had very predatory smiles. We give them what they want. A target so irresistible they can't ignore it. The consortium's capital system itself. The chamber erupted in protests, but Elena raised her hand. Not the real one, a decoy. We evacuate the population quietly. Replace the infrastructure with automated systems designed to look occupied, and when they arrive, she gestured, and the hologram showed a massive stellar engineering project. We trigger the star to go supernova. The silence that followed was deafening. You're talking about destroying an entire system, whispered Thornwick. To save the galaxy, Elena replied simply. Sometimes victory requires sacrifice. The question is whether you're willing to make the hard choice. 3 months later, the plan was in motion. The false targets had drawn devourer forces into carefully prepared kill zones. Their advance had slowed, then stopped, then reversed. For the first time in 2 centuries, as they found themselves fighting a war, they couldn't simply consume their way through. Elena stood on the bridge of the consortium flagship, watching as the devourer fleet took the bait and entered the decoy capital system. Around her, beings who had dismissed her as a mere scholar now looked at her with something approaching awe. Initiate stellar collapse, she ordered. The star died in a burst of light that could be seen across 3 sectors. With it died the devourer leadership, their command structure, and their 2-century reign of terror. How? Asked Kilnara, her voice filled with wonder. How did you know it would work? Elena turned from the view screen, her expression thoughtful. Because I studied how civilizations fall. But more importantly, I studied how they survive. The key isn't having the strongest weapons or the best technology. It's having the will to adapt, to think beyond conventional wisdom, and to make the choices others can't. She paused, looking out at the stars that still twinkled with life because of her strategy. You invited a scholar, but humanity doesn't separate knowledge from application. Every human scholar is also a strategist, every teacher a warrior, every student a survivor. That's how we've made it this far, and that's what we bring to the galaxy. The devourers were gone, but Elena Vasquez had done something far more significant than win a war. She had introduced the galaxy to the human way of thinking. Scholarly, yes, but tempered with the pragmatic ruthlessness that had carried humanity from the caves to the stars. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would its enemies.